Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Borderline Podcast with me, your host, Andrew Willox. And tonight, guys, we welcome back the brilliant Sarah Wellband. Now, some of you may remember Sarah from an episode earlier in the year when she came on to first talk about remedial hypnosis, how it works, what it could benefit you, and how it can really help you change your life and understand the issues that you face today that may have been deep-rooted from years past. Now, Sarah was very kindly offered me some sessions with remedial hypnosis. I underwent them, and we're going to talk about them in this episode. They were life-changing for me. I really do genuinely mean that. This isn't a sell for the episode. This is genuine, from the heart, complete truth. This really helped change my life. We're also going to talk about a new business that Sarah has that has a load of other practitioners all across the world that can give you almost immediate access to therapy. That's something that is just, it's not around. There's no access to that just now. So this really is going to be an informative chat. There's so much information, guys. All the information is going to be in the episode description below. If you are watching on YouTube, can I kindly ask that you drop a like and subscribe? It really helps the channel get onto the YouTube algorithm so more people can access this content and more people can get on top of their mental health. That is what we're trying to do at the end of the day. So, guys, I really, really hope you enjoyed this one. There's just so much information in it. I'll just leave it there. Sarah Wellband on the Borderline Podcast again. Enjoy. Good evening, everybody, and welcome again to the Borderline Podcast. And as you'll see, the guest is already in the studio with me. You may remember her from an earlier episode back in March, April time. Sarah Wellband, welcome back to the Borderline Podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, Andrew. Thank you very much for having me back on again.
It's a pleasure. Like I say, just before we came on air, there was very little giddy up for the episode. It's become a bit of a free-flowing conversation because we've spent a bit of time with each other over the last couple of months as well, which we'll talk about. So the reason why Sarah's back on is because if you caught her episode back earlier in the year, you remember that she was on to talk about remedial hypnosis, how it works, the process that it can offer you, and the treatment that it can give you to help ease symptoms of whatever you are struggling with. I guess it's such a unique way of therapy, what I found out. And shortly after that, I was offered some treatment from Sarah herself, and we're going to dissect that a little bit later on in this episode today, and just talk about it because it's been a little bit life changing for me. That there's no other way to say it. It really has had that effect on me. So, but more importantly, is this new business, this new enterprise, I'm going to call it, the Control Practioners. Now, I'm just going to give you the microphone and let you talk about it and let the audience find out what the Control Practioners is all about, because it is a game changer, is what I would call it in terms of mental health. So Sarah, please.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, the Control Practioners is a collaboration between myself and, at the moment, 4 colleagues. Hopefully there will be more in the future. We all trained and qualified as Control Practitioners with a guy called Tim Box, who is very well known for his TEDx talk, How Not to Be Anxious About Anxiety. And we were all working individually. And I just had the idea that it would make a lot more sense for us to work together, so we can offer a wider service and we can reach more people and help more people, which is what this is all about. So we launched the website a few weeks ago, and it's on a very simple premise. Help the client. When people are in crisis, or when they're unhappy, or when they have an ongoing mental health issue, be it anxiety, panic attacks, low self-esteem, phobias, etc., they don't have many options to turn to. They can go to their doctor, to the National Health Service, but generally they'll only be offered either drugs, which for a lot of people work, but for some people they would prefer to look at other options, or they can go on a waiting list for CBT or other types of therapy. But those waiting lists are often weeks, if not months long. So there are 3 distinct threats to the service. First of all, if somebody contacts us, we will get back to them within 24 hours. So there's no long lead-in, there's no receptionist, there's no loads of form filling. You send us an email, and a qualified, experienced practitioner will be in touch within 24 hours. The second thing is, once we've had that initial email conversation or messenger conversation, we will offer people a free, no obligation initial consultation within 7 days. That means that they will have at least an hour one-on-one conversation via Zoom, again with a qualified, experienced practitioner who will be able to tell them the idea behind the consultation is, first of all, just to get to know each other, to make sure that we get on with each other, because with the best will in the world, there's not always chemistry there. So it's just to have a chat, to get to know each other. Secondly, is to make sure that their issue, that the problem that they're coming to us with, is something that we can help with. There is a long list of things on the website that we can help with, but there are some conditions that are outside our lane. Things like, excuse me, schizophrenia or bipolar or psychosis, which are much better dealt with within the medical profession. And the third part of the initial consultation is to talk to their subconscious mind, make sure that it's willing and able to engage in the process. We went through this ourselves, but if there's about 10% of people in the public who are what we call super responders, where the subconscious is very willing and able and dying to have a conversation. There is about 10% of people at the other end of the scale where the subconscious, for whatever reason, just doesn't want to engage. And for that 10%, it wouldn't be ethical, or it would be a waste of the client's money and time to take it any further. So what we would try to do with that group of people is point them in a direction of another service, or at least educate them in some way so that we can provide some sort of help. Vast majority of people will respond in one way or another. And we ask two very simple questions of the subconscious mind. One, are you aware of the issue that we need to deal with, that we're looking to deal with? And two, are you prepared to work with me, the practitioner, to resolve these problems? And if we get a yes, or even a yes and a no, or even a no and a no, we generally can then go on and schedule the change sessions, the change program. Okay. If the client decides to go ahead, if we're happy to go ahead, then the third part of the process is a single fixed fee of £495, or euros, or dollar. In the States, I think it's 635 with the exchange rate. Because again, a lot of people say, I'd love to do private therapy, but I've no idea how much it's going to cost. And I'm too embarrassed to inquire about it, because if it's very expensive, what am I going to do? So we get that fee element out of the way early on. It's fixed. There's no additional costs. There's no extras. That's it. So as long as people are happy with that, then we can go ahead and schedule the sessions. Normally there are 3 sessions. The work is completed within 3 sessions. Sometimes it takes more. Sometimes it only takes 2. But if it takes 4, 5, 6 sessions, again, there's no extra charge. Our role that we take on from the initial consultation is to fix the problem that the person's come to us with. And if it takes a long time to do that, then fair enough. So in a nutshell, it's very simple. Contact within 24 hours, free initial consultation, no obligation within 7 days, and a fixed fee for the whole program.
Yeah, that's amazing and unique. Just listen to it and knowing personally just how hard it's been for me before we connected, and knowing how hard it is for everybody else, let's face it, that has some sort of mental health condition that is seeking help. 2 massive points there is the fast response and taking away that need for the client, for the person that's suffering, to continually have to go after phone number after phone number, and like you say, waiting on hold and then hold, because that creates its own anxiety, and it puts people off the treatment and off the therapy. And that's why I find personally why the NHS system as a unit system just does not work in treating mental health, because it creates so much more anxiety in itself. And to go on to the second massive point that I picked up there, obviously from the finance, again, completely related to myself, is that something that I battled with when I was thinking about trying to get private therapy, because as you say, you want to do it and you don't know, well, is it going to take one session? Is it going to take 5 sessions? Is it going to take
Yeah,
25 sessions? Well, at 50
yeah,
pounds an hour, that's going to cost me, 2.5 grand. I don't have 2.5 grand. And that, again, it puts off. It puts off. And that's why, for me personally, I think that's why the mental health crisis has been so accentuated, and it really has gotten out of control. Not because at times the help hasn't been there, it's just not the right. I don't want to say the wrong type of help. It's just not. It's not fast enough. It's not effective enough. It's not efficient enough, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And so, to cover all them points is for me somebody that would suffer with anxiety and depression, and knowing how hard it is to even pick up that phone sometimes and dial that number, to
yeah,
take that responsibility as such a way
yeah.
would just be such a weight lifted off their shoulders. And again, you talk about the chemistry with the client. We had brilliant chemistry, and straight off the bat, I would say that's because of your care and nature. But it's also the understanding nature that you also offered me, was that it was okay to let my worries add up to talk about them, is what I'm trying to say there, and it
Yes.
made it so much easier. And I don't believe that if I had that with somebody that I was paying 50, 60 pounds an hour with, I don't know how honest and open I'd actually be, because I'd be so paranoid to make sure that I got every penny's worth, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I understand.
In a
Yeah,
weird way, in a weird
yeah,
little paradox. It was, yeah. So, for me to have an insight of that, and to see, since from our first episode to where you are now talking about that, it's absolutely incredible, and I just know it's going to help so many people. Um, so would you be able to just go through, obviously, remedial hypnosis? Is there any other types of therapy that you offer within the other practitioners in the group?
yes. I'm only trained in the remedial hypnosis, although I studied CBT to level 4 before I did this, and that was just online. So I'm not a qualified CBT practitioner, but um, Emma, for example, is had a long career in speech therapy and is a qualified life coach. Um, Sarah Jane has her own gym and is a qualified PT teacher. So for anybody with body image worries or fitness images, she would be the go-to person there. Anthony in Seattle is specializes in IBS and gut issues, because funnily enough, hypnosis is a medical treatment for IBS in the UK. And Paul has got years of experience in both hypnotherapy, remedial hypnosis, and NLP. So again, that's another really good reason for us to be working together, because if an inquiry comes in and we can say, okay, one of the group is more qualified than the others to deal with this, then the client is getting the collective knowledge, if you like, the collective experience and the collective specialities. So yes, so there are other options. And again, once the client starts talking to a particular member of the collective, particular practitioner, if the control system, the system that I used with you, isn't right for them, but they have another modality which would be more appropriate, then that's fine. That's the route they would go down. So we've tried. Well, we hope we're angling this from at all times from the client's point of view. What's best for the client? Because if we get that right, then not only are we helping that client, but they will go and tell other people, and they will post about it and they will talk about it, and you get the ripple effect.
Yeah.
So once we get the basics right, then yeah, it should work.
Yeah, oh, it absolutely will. I mean, something again that I just picked up on there, just having that unique spectrum of experts is oddly, and this will be new to you, even though we spoke in depth about loads of different things. Again, speaking about when I've had really quite bad symptoms of anxiety, body image is something that I have struggled with, and IBS is a byproduct, or has been a
Yeah,
byproduct of my anxiety. So even that little uniqueness that could be covered is Because, like I say again, you go down to your doctors and you speak to your GP, they're going to say, right, we're going to give you an appointment for this, and then this is going to be a
Yeah,
separate entity of a problem, and then you're going to have to, and it just gets on top of it. It just gets too much for people. We're only human at
yeah,
times, so it will absolutely work. And I think something that we definitely agree on, like you said about the medication. Sometimes medication works for people, other time it doesn't, and seeking an alternative therapy is so beneficial because it doesn't necessarily open up your eyes. When you talk about it, it opens up other people's eyes.
yeah.
And well, so much so that's exactly what we're doing right now, because I've had such a positive experience with it, is that I want to talk about it and inform people that this could really, really, really help change them and really benefit them. So it will absolutely work. is what I'm trying to say there, Sarah, I guess. So
I, I
sorry, I'll
think I
let
think
you
the
talk
two.
for a bit.
Yeah, yeah, no. I think the two things. One is with remedial hypnosis, there's no side effects. It's non-toxic. It's not addictive. It could become addictive, I suppose, but there is no downside. I guess the only downside is if it doesn't work for a certain person. Well, at least then they can tick it off the list and say, okay, well, I can try something else. But that's the only thing that can be seen as a negative. Um,
Mhm.
and the other thing has gone out of my mind, but it'll come back to me.
I'm sorry. Well,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
when it does,
The,
just put up your hand and just there you go.
yeah, the other thing is education. So most people, when they come to us, they have no idea how their mind works. We talk about the conscious and the subconscious, and how you can get to know yourself, how you can understand your thoughts and what your mind is trying to tell you. And I'll give you a very silly example. I do Polygon every morning. It's in the online newspaper, and it's a circle of letters and a letter in the middle. And you have to make as many words as you can. And then there's one word which is made up from all the letters. I looked at it this morning or yesterday morning, and I thought, oh, that's too difficult. It's getting towards the end of the week. It's too complicated. I went out, I was feeding the horses, putting hay out, and all of a sudden the word cellular jumps into my mind out of nowhere. Now, that's a really good example of my subconscious mind had gone, okay, let's have a look at those words. And it was literally seconds. And they'd gone off and figured it out. And then just, that's the word you need, Sarah. Thanks, guys. And again, it sounds weird, but once you're able to communicate with your whole self, then there's so much you can achieve, so much you can do, so much you can learn about yourself and learn how to help yourself. So education is a huge part of what we do.
Yeah, I was going to say that was almost the perfect example there of remembering the word education and what you want to talk about with the filing cabinet
Yes.
analogy. Uh, so let's talk about let's talk about my experience for a little bit and
Yeah.
why I really think it could benefit somebody. But just before we go into that, would you be able to, just for anybody else that maybe hasn't watched the first episode and has just jumped straight to this one, would you just be able to give an oversight again of the process of a remedial hypnosis and what it involves there?
Yeah. So the first major step is this initial consultation where we have a chat through. You tell me what you're looking to change, because this is a very solution focused type of therapy. Somebody says, okay, I'm not happy with the way I think or the way I feel or the way I behave. I get very anxious, or I'm frightened of flying, which is, holiday season, people are scared of flying, or I have a bad phobia. So those are the three things: the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave. And they say, I need to change this. I need to make this change. So what we do is we connect with that part of the subconscious mind that developed that strategy in the first place. So, for example, if somebody has a fear of mice, let's say mice, and they develop that fear because their grandmother or their mother or father or brother, whoever, saw a mouse when they were a child and did the whole Tom and Jerry thing, jumped on a chair and screamed, oh my God, there's a mouse. That told that child's mind that mice are scary, and that is the appropriate response to a mouse. And that becomes part of who they are. And they will say, oh my God, even the thought of a mouse is horrible, because that's what they learned as a young child when they didn't have the ability to make their own mind up. You get into adulthood and you know that mice are cute and they can't do any harm and everything else, but you've still got that fear inside. So we talk to that little part of the subconscious, that crew member who devised that fear in the first place, and just say, look, you don't need to do this anymore. It worked well then, you learned it then, but it's not helpful. It's not adding to this person's life. In fact, it's taking away from their happiness. So can you please just stop? And the subconscious is very childlike. It's very black and white. It's very right and wrong. It goes, oh, okay, didn't realize, I'll stop it. And literally within 2 sessions, that phobia of mice or spiders or flying or whatever it might be will be gone, because we weren't born with it. Anything the mind can learn, the mind can unlearn. And that's where we come in, is just re-educating the engine room part of the mind that we can't normally access on a personal basis, just to bring things up to date. Do a system update, if you like.
Yeah, system update. That's a good way of putting it. Actually, that certainly feels like what I've had anyway. It's a good little system update and a reboot since I began this type of therapy. But so for everybody listening in, the one, I guess the two things that we were aiming to really kind of rewire, so to speak, was the intrusive thoughts that I was getting, and the low self-esteem, the validation, the no confidence in what I was doing with the awareness and what I was doing on social media with the podcast and that. I felt that I was seeking these validations. And before we started the hypnosis, even with talking to you, I knew it was something that I would be very on board with and very open with. But I was completely blown away by its effectiveness. And what really surprised me for the outset was the level of talk therapy that we did before we actually began the hypnosis. Because to me, we had only spoken 2 or 3 times before the first proper session. And just from the way you were able to speak to me and almost connect with the subconscious while fully conscious, was bringing back, I should say, instances from childhood, instances from my teenage years, emotions and negative energy that I had never ever thought about in years. And it goes back to that filing cabinet analogy that I just cannot get out of my head, ironically. Now, is that it just feels like there's this hand going down, and any single time for me that I feel like I get that negative energy now, I can just control it so much better, and I can come to terms with it so much better. And for me personally, that's what remedial hypnosis has given me. It's allowed me. You summed it up perfectly before when you were talking about your polygons, and it just feels like there's almost this unison within yourself that I'm able to communicate with this part of me now and to really calm it down. And I feel in general, I'm just a much more calmer person. And that's someday I think I know personally, when I started doing these podcasts and started doing the awareness, something that I used to keep on saying in posts and to myself and on podcasts was, I don't want to think of the future as being unachievable. I just want to achieve what I know I can have back, and that's myself, because I felt really lost with myself. And what I believe remedial hypnosis has done for me is it's allowed me to connect back to that part of me, that calm part of me that isn't so fight or flight decision. There you go, Andrew. You have to make that decision. It's okay. Take your foot off the gas now. How will this decision affect you? How will this decision affect others? And coming to terms with it and balancing the book, so to speak. So for me, it really has been a game changer. But just to fill everybody else in, obviously the process of what we're doing with that, sorry, I've rambled on for a couple of minutes now, was so we set up, and it's with the fingers, obviously. The camera's down at the fingers and talking. And could you just talk then about that finger and subconscious connection, please, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously why that's so important to your therapy.
Yes. So our subconscious mind, if you think of all the things that you do each day without having to consciously think about it. Walking, driving your car, all the things that you'll do. I'm using my hands now. I'm not consciously, making these movements. My subconscious is using them to make a point. So what we do, just to step back a bit, we talk about the conscious and the subconscious as though they're two separate things. They're not. There's the very old drawing of the iceberg. So you've got the tip of the iceberg poking out of the sea, and that's the part that you can see, and that's the conscious mind. Whereas underneath the surface, you've got this massive iceberg, which is your subconscious, which is where everything you've ever thought about, all your memories, every part of you is in there. And that's what we want to access. Filing cabinet. You've got a tiny filing cabinet next to you. You've got a massive warehouse full of filing cabinets that you can't normally get to. So just coming back to the fingers, basically the subconscious is quite capable of moving parts of your body without you consciously being involved. So what I do, we all do, is we ask the subconscious to move a finger or a thumb on one or other hand, just basically to show that it can do it. Okay. And when people say, fuck me, that's weird, my fingers are moving on their own, we know that they're not doing it consciously. And some people get a little bit freaked out about it, but when you explain that, your body moves on its own volition a lot of the time without you necessarily having an input, then they're okay. So we ask the subconscious to move a finger for yes and to move a finger for no, so we can have a yes and no conversation. And that's when we ask the question, are you aware of what we've been discussing? And again, the subconscious is part of you, so generally it will say, yes, I'm aware of what this issue is, and are you prepared to work with me on it? And again, 99 times out of 100, the answer is yes. If the answer is no, then it just means that we're going to need to negotiate or find out why there's resistance. So when we get into the actual change sessions, we try to find the particular part of the subconscious which is perpetuating the problem, or which is working on old information or old beliefs. Because again, I think I used this analogy last time, public speaking. When you're 10 years old and you get up in front of your classmates and make a complete mess of a presentation, the little part of the subconscious will go, you are never doing that again. That was awful. That was horrible. We're going to avoid this in the future. When you're 25 and you're told you need to do a presentation to your colleagues or to the board or speak in public, that part of the subconscious is going to jump up and go, no, you're not. We're not going through that again. And we'll give you physical symptoms, we'll give you anxiety. So that part is doing the right thing, but for the wrong reason. It needs to be told that what you did then was admirable and it made sense, but now it doesn't make sense, and I literally just want you to stop. And that part will go, oh, okay, and you get the response, are you happy to change this thought pattern? Are you happy to change this behavior? And you get a yes response or a no response. And it's really as simple as that. As I mentioned, the subconscious doesn't see nuances. It doesn't see shades of gray. It will just say, okay, this is either good behavior or bad behavior. I either need to carry on doing this or I can stop doing this. And if you say, no, it's much better if you stop drinking a bottle of wine every night or eating 2 bars of chocolate or whatever it is that you feel compelled to do, then it will go, oh, okay, didn't realize, sorry, I'll stop. And as you found, the changes that we make are very quick and life-changing.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, they really are. I was like Kim was saying, I was quite blown away by the effectiveness of how I know it sounds stupid how effective and fast it actually really was. But to go over back to, like you're saying, the clients might be a little bit freaked out, so to speak, when their fingers start moving. That's definitely something that I would agree with.
Yeah.
But not so much just the fingers, right? The one thing, and just to highlight to everybody, is certainly people that know me personally. The thing that blew my mind was when we got in that little bit deeper, and different fingers were doing different responses for different questions. Now I can't remember what I'd done 5 minutes ago half the time. I really can't. Things go into my brain, things go straight
Yeah.
back out. Consciously, I would not. I don't believe I would have remembered. I believe I would have used the same fingers as what I'm trying to say there for the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
responses. Whereas
Yeah.
it just felt so bizarre that it was really moving different fingers for different responses. And yeah, because I kind of went into that kind of medium trance sort of state during it,
Yeah.
that I was completely conscious and aware, but also in a way that I was in connection to what was going on. Felt like a meditation session combined with a 9 hour sleep, combined with a 2 hour therapy session as well. It was just,
all,
it
all
was,
in 40 minutes.
it was, it was all in for it was incredible. It was incredible. And like I say, I keep on going back to life changing was the fact that before we started our course of therapy, and people closest to me will know this might be a little bit of a surprise for you as well. I was really struggling to try and navigate where I was supposed to be going with the podcast and what I was doing with my life, and the intrusive thoughts and the head noise was battering. And like I say, when you're suffering from poor mental health, it's not an hour out of your day. You might get an hour's relief out of your day.
Yeah.
It's constant. It's all you typically think about. And when that's negative, that is exhausting.
Yeah.
And to be able to, in literally, like you say, a 40-minute session, flip that dynamic around and to genuinely feel the difference. We're not talking about placebos.
No.
We're not talking about even medication to a degree that is it effective, or is it just because you're on medication that you're feeling better? You feel better because you know it's completely true to you, and you know that you've actually healed that little bit of hurt that was going on internally inside of you that you just were not aware about. And
Yeah.
I've been on medication since 2015 or something like that. I've never had that. I've never taken a tablet and went, oh my God, I feel 10 times better today because that one felt better.
Yeah.
It's just something that never happens. It's a constant. And to be the education that I've learned from this and what I've taken away to use in my life going forward with like I say, I do regularly meditate. And the effectiveness of that is now so much better as well, because like I say, that true connection to myself is something that I really struggled to find again, and to really feel like I was making progress with myself every day. And
Yeah.
now it just feels so much easier to process that thought and to recognize that when there is that saboteur thought, that
Hmm.
intrusive thought that comes in, it's so easy to go, no, 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 no. Just
Yeah.
I'm the
Yeah.
captain. You can sit back
Yeah.
down now, because and we'll talk about that in a second. Is the it's weird because I really do say that in my self talk now, is I can help captain the ship. You've just got
Yes.
to work as a team.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
so true and it's so effective, because I've said in the past that when I get anxiety, you can tell it to fuck off, but does it work? It's the
Yeah.
anxiety still stays. Typically,
Yeah.
you try to trick your brain, but this isn't tricking your brain. This is really becoming part of your brain, and like you say, making it work together. And could you just go through the captain of the cruise ship and the saboteur analogy,
Yeah.
like we found with myself?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You have to excuse me. It's incredibly hot in here. My glasses keep steaming up, but
No
I'll
problem.
soldier on. Um, yeah. So the analogy we use is that your mind is like a ship with a captain and a crew, and the captain is the conscious, rational, logical part of your mind, which can think deeply about things, which can problem solve, and which can do all sorts of tasks. But two problems. One, the captain didn't join the ship until you were 10, 11, 12 years old, because before then you weren't capable of deciding whether what you were being told or what you were learning was true or not. You couldn't have that internal debate. And the second part is that there is only one captain on the ship, so you can only concentrate on two or three things at a time. The captain can sail the ship and know where you're going and how you're going to get there, but the captain has to rely on the crew, which is your subconscious. And each part of the subconscious has a role aboard the ship to help keep it afloat and keep it sailing. So there will be a part that says, okay, there's danger over there. I'm going to trigger the emotion of fear so that we move the ship away. Actual danger, then that's a very sensible thing to do. If it's perceived danger, and there's perceived dangers everywhere, which can happen when people are fearful, then the ship's never going to make any forward progress, because that part of the subconscious is overreacting and being too protective. So everything that we do is controlled by a little part of the subconscious, little part of the crew. So I was thinking about this earlier before we started talking. My role is a little bit like a detective, is to listen to what you're saying, not only to what you're telling me, but all the little nuances and the little added bits of information which build a picture as to what's going on with your crew, which parts are I'm not going to use the word misbehaving, because the subconscious always wants you to be safe and happy. It could just be that they're working on information that was incorrect in the first place, is no longer relevant, just needs to be changed because it's not fulfilling its purpose anymore. So I pick up on what you're saying, and then we ask that part of the subconscious to come forward. Now, as we found with yourself, sometimes earlier in life, something happens when we blame ourselves. We blame ourselves for something went wrong. And a part of the subconscious gets the blame, and they're effectively put into what do you call jails on a ship? They're put into the stocks or something. Anyway, they're
Yeah.
banished. They're banished, and they're sent from the outside. So they're saying, okay, well, if I'm not happy, nobody else is going to be happy, and they'll be standing there, throwing rocks and basically trying to make everybody realize that it wasn't their fault, or if it was their fault, they're sorry and they're unhappy, and it's disharmony amongst the crew. And that's often the case when people say, there's a part of me that hates me. Whenever anybody says there's a part of me, I know that's the part of the subconscious we need to talk to or to deal with. So often when we find there's a saboteur, what we basically say to this saboteur, and again we use the fingers, is if I could arrange for you to be part of the crew again, to be back in the gang, to be back, working together, would you want that? And 100 times out of 100, the answer is yes. So we ask the rest of the crew, can this member come back and work together again? And you bring them back. And that happened with you. And again, there was that little part that was saying, I'm going to fight everything that he's trying to do to resolve this, because I'm unhappy. And once we'd resolved that issue, then it was much easier to say, okay, let's set sail and let's build on our happiness. Does that make sense?
You 100% does. The saboteur, and again, for the validity of what that feels like now, is that I still get self-talk like everybody else. I still get intrusive thoughts, but I can pick out now, and I can tell that saboteur, come on now, calm back down and just get back in place. We don't want that. And that's it. That's all I need to do now. It's that simple.
Yeah.
There's no overthinking. There's no overcomplication. There's no telling it to piss off and then actually feeling so shitty. There's, there's real progress there. And again, I don't know if you'd be aware of this, because of the captain of the ship analogy, is Arnold Schwarzenegger actually says the same thing after I think it was, I don't know if it was remedial hypnosis that he actually specifically done, but then that went on to one of his really famous quotes, that you can have the most expensive yacht, you can have the most expensive car, you can have the most expensive plane in the world, but without a map and a crew that works together, you're never going to get there. And it's so true. It is so true. And that's, in a nutshell, for me, to where I am now. I guess we talk about the recovery now, and I was, in a real terms, that the audience would maybe understand from this, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I had no idea where I was going prior to doing the meditation. I was worried, I was anxious, I was upset, I was hurting. I was hurting because I couldn't make sense of how to get out of this rut that I'd found myself in. And since then, I'm not saying that I've taken the foot off the gas in a negative way, with what I'm trying to do, because it's incredibly busy time of year outside of podcast. But it's just so much clearer now that there isn't this need and drive and dependency. And even with the social media side, it's not, I'm not saying it's rare that I post because I don't care about posting. It's just that I'm more self-aware with that side of my brain that's also the rationale for everybody else in the world, not just Andrew.
Yeah.
And that importance that I've been lacking for so long to understand that I might feel that just now. I might feel that just now. That doesn't mean I need to post about that just now and let the world see that just now, because sometimes
Yeah.
the world doesn't want to see that. And that battle, just saying that to myself is enough. And that's
Yeah.
something I would never, ever have been able to do, 3 or 4 months ago. So it really is life changing. And that's what I'm saying, that the benefits, I've got a couple of things written down here. If you were to suffer from social anxiety, it would just change. I'm telling you, it would be able to change the way you exist in the world. Same, potential in the PTSD as well, with regressing negative
Oh
emotions
yeah.
and energy and instances. It's.
Yeah.
I really believe that this has completely changed my way of thinking, and I'm going to keep on educating. 100%. It's something
Brilliant.
that we might even add,
Brilliant.
like we discussed. It might be something that I add into my curriculum vitae at one point in the future as well. It has
That'd be great.
been so impactful. Yeah, don't worry. I would absolutely love to. And I have to say, now that you're on the podcast as well, just genuinely, Sarah, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, because it's very soon going to be a year since this whole podcast malarkey started. And I had no idea that it would get past episode 1, it would get past episode 2, that it would ever get listened to. And to be sat 11 months later, having done a course of therapy that I had really never understood and heard of prior to even getting into this podcasting business, and to now be sat speaking about how I've made progress with my mental health, that anybody listening, trust me that it is enough. It really is, and this really, really, really can help you. And that's what I'm trying to say. So just thank you
Yeah.
so much. Bravo
You're
for helping fix my conscious and subconscious.
no, you're very welcome. It was great working with you. And just a question: do you chat with your crew? Do you thank them? Because one of the
Oh
things I
yeah.
always say to people is, be kind to your mind. It's always trying to help you. It might not get things right. We're human. We get things wrong. But when things go well, say, "Wow, you got that polygon for me. Thank you. Saved me looking at a piece of the screen for hours." Or little things, big things. Your mind always wants you to be happy. Now, things happen in life where we're not, but if you're happy being you, if you get up every morning and go, I'm glad I'm me. Things might be going wrong, things might be happening in my life, but I don't want to be anybody else. I'm happy I'm me. That's brilliant. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, it's the only time I'm probably not self-talking is when I'm asleep. I'm always in that constant dialogue with my head. But yeah, you're totally right. The talking to the crew part, again, to go back onto that, it really is when that, not even with the negative emotion, with the positive, the
Oh
rewarding
yeah.
aspect. That's
Yeah.
something as well that I've not even spoken about, is the rewarding aspect. And I don't mean putting my hand in the cookie jar. I mean genuinely saying to myself and recognizing to myself, hell, you never felt depressed today. Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
actually quite a good thing to do. You never let
Yeah.
me feel shit.
Yeah.
That is a huge step in the right direction. So, it's not just blocking out the negative, it's also taking in the positive. And
Absolutely.
like I say,
Yeah.
that that almost chakra like unison down that runs down your body, that river that flows round every meander and bend instead of getting blocked up. That's what it's done for me. It's allowed my thoughts to flow with my emotions and not get blocked up. Yeah, it's incredible. To
That's
like I say,
that's
just
that's brilliant.
just to think that in such a short period of time too.
Yeah. And again, that's why I do it. It's talking to people like yourself and getting reviews and seeing the way people, even from the first session to the third session, you can see the physical change in them. Instead of being down and like this, they're all of a sudden, hi Sarah, and there's no tissues around us, and it's like, yeah, I'm different. It's a huge buzz. It's if you get the chance to be able to do something like this that is so life changing, why wouldn't you? And that's why I'm so passionate about getting it out to more people, and having more people being able to say what you've just said. That is just brilliant.
Yeah.
It makes me worthwhile getting up in the morning to be able to be able to do this, and I just want to tell everybody about it. And thank you very much for doing it on my behalf.
No, no. Honestly, it was my pleasure. It was amazing. One last thing, sorry, I was going through my notes just to make sure that I've covered everything that I want to talk about. This is definitely the last thing I'm going to say about my experience. Is you asked me a question in our first session: Do I get a lot of dreams? Do I dream a lot? Can I remember my dreams, or do I get vivid dreams? And prior to that, I told you, I actually can't remember the last time that I had a dream, or obviously I had a dream, but when was the last time I could actually remember that dream? Now, dreams are important. And I've always said that dreams are really important because they can fill your nights with serotonin and dopamine as well. Let's face it, you can have really good dreams that make you feel good during the night, and that gives you a good way to wake up in the morning. And I've had that back as well, and my sleep's improved.
Brilliant.
Hell, my wife, she won't mind me saying this. She's not lazy, but I always get up earlier than my wife every single day. It's just usually with me, it's as soon as my eyelids wake up. I think I'd said someday a while ago, or maybe even on the podcast, literally from the time that my eyes wake up to the time that I have that for a cigarette, for the time that I jump back in the shower is usually under 5 minutes. And that's not a flex. It's just because I'm just hyperactive that way. And I think it was only about 4 days after our first session, I woke up and I could hear Bella, the dog, clawing at the crate, which I immediately thought, oh God, no, she's sick or she needs a toilet because it's got to be early. She never does that. So I got up and it was 20 to 9. Now, now that might not sound late to a lot of people, but when you're used to getting up, or not getting up, being woke up by your mind, this is what I'd like to call it, at 5 o'clock every single morning.
Yeah.
To now have that benefit and I was saying this to ask my wife a couple of nights ago, to now actually be in a position, and this sounds to so many people, this will sound so insignificant and so little, but it's been a massive thing for me to have the option of a lie-in. Is something that I've not had for years, and to actually lie in bed in the morning and just take a couple of minutes just to gather my thoughts before I'm rushing down the stairs. And that's why I'm in a bad mood, because by the time that my mind's woken up, I'm at the front door for some reason having a cigarette. It's again, I'm just highlighting the validity of how it works and what it could offer you, because insomnia is something that I speak about a lot with a symptom that I get, the depression and the anxiety. But really, over the last 6 weeks, it's been. I mean, I don't look it because I've just came off a night shift, but it's it's been absolutely incredible. So yeah, and that's what I mean by life changing. That's a big one. That's a big one that could really help people, because sleep is so important. It really is.
So sleep.
I hope. Sorry.
Definitely respond really well, because again, there can be a part of the mind that's going, right, well, we need to sort this out, we need to do this, we need to do that, and again, we just talk to that part of the mind and say, you know what, there is nothing you can do at 3 o'clock in the morning. The only sensible, viable thing that you can do at 3 o'clock in the morning is allow the person to get some sleep, because when they wake up having slept for 8 hours, they're going to be in a much better position to deal with all the things that you're bringing up now and stopping them from sleeping. And again, when you have that very simple argument, the subconscious go, oh yeah, got that. Okay, I'll shut up. And again, it's people can be suffering from years, and the subconscious thinks I'm doing the right thing because everybody else is asleep. I'll work out all these problems. And you go, no, leave it. It's not helping. And they go, oh, all right, I'll stop. And the other one, which little anecdote from earlier this week, emotional eating. I had a lady who was eating a packet of Oreos every single day, and we've just finished the last session, and she said she went into work and somebody offered her a little packet of Oreos, and she went, no thanks. Just gave them back. Said I don't eat those anymore. Yeah. So we can
Yeah.
hone into a specific food, a specific habit.
Yeah,
It's a
let's say
very solution
it's not
focused.
just mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can really help people, in all aspects of life. Like you spoke about earlier, it's a busy time of year with people going on holidays. People are scared of flying, and that can change people's life, and that is how this could really help people and really, truly, truly, truly benefit them. Sarah, I'd like to thank you once more for coming back onto the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure once more having you on. You've done terrific at the fact that this is the very first guest Facebook Live that the Borderline podcast has done. So woohoo, bravo for that! Well done, you made it through. We only had a couple of swears in there, so we're okay.
I had to throw one in.
Yeah, you do. It just eases the flow of the conversation. But I would love to have you back on again in future. Like I say, the natural ease of the conversations that we've had outside of the podcast as well has been really wonderful, and I've honestly really 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 enjoyed it, and I'm sure once again people that have watched your previous episode had a load of good feedback off of it. Will be tuning in whenever this episode airs. I think it'll be tomorrow, Saturday the 3rd of August. In case you're watching
Brilliant.
on Facebook Live, I'm just confusing my head now with dates. And like I say, and to get potentially, one of the other practitioners on from the Control Practitioners to come on
Absolutely.
and talk about the Borderline podcast.
Yeah, they will offer a different perspective, and yeah, it's really useful because we all do the same thing, but we do it in slightly different ways, and they have different specialities. So when they're all back from holiday, I will get one of them to come on. But yeah, it's been brilliant. Lovely talking to you as always.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. Guys, all the information for this episode, there's so much information that's going to be right in the episode description below. From there, you're going to be able to find the website for the Control Practitioners, which will have every practitioner on there. Like Sarah says, you can get a free drop them a message. They'll let me respond within 24 hours, and you can then potentially begin a free 24-hour free consultation, and then you can progress forward to find out which therapy should the right therapy, and if it would work for you, would it be right for you. It is a much faster service than you're going to get in the NHS, and quite frankly, anything else privately for that matter as well, may I add. So, guys, go ahead and check out the website. There's going to be so much information that's going to help you on there. I really hope that me talking about my experience has, I'm not going to say try and persuade anybody to go and give this a go, but it's educated you enough to make a decision of, would this actually benefit me and could this actually help me? Because that at the end of the day is exactly what Sarah and her team is trying to offer. Like we just explained, that's why she gets out of bed every day as well, is to help people like me and to help the many, many others that are going to be listening to this. I genuinely, one last time, believe this can help you. Trust me on that. For somebody that's spoken to people, neuroscientists, and have been down the medication route, this has probably been the most effective course of therapy I've ever done. Just putting that there. So if that's not a good bargaining chip, guys, I don't know what is. Please go and check out the website. Sarah, once again, thank you so much for coming on to the Borderline podcast, and thank you even more for changing my life.
You're very, very welcome, Andrew. It's a pleasure, as always.
Yeah, it's been all mine. It's been all mine. Guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this one. Like I said, it's going to be on Spotify. The audio versions will be across Spotify on Saturday, the 3rd of August. The video version will be across on our YouTube channel, the Borderline Podcast. If you are there, please remember to drop us a like and subscribe. It really helps get some of the algorithm, and so more people can see videos like this and get the help that they need to overcome their poor mental health. From Sarah Wellband across in Portugal of the Control Practitioners, the here in sunny IMO with Andrew Willox, this has been the Borderline Podcast. Good night.
Bye.